Movie Wars.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Movie Wars podcast. Yeah.
What's up? Welcome back.
I say as I show off my Batman tattoo
God.
and
And
Batcat
shirt.
for
He's
what we got
prepared.
going on today.
And what my kids call a stuffy. A Batman stuffy.
You better get the right vowel on that one.
Yeah. Yeah, it was next to his pillow. I saw it. He cuddles with that thing.
do.
I love it.
I do.
We can...
If Batman had that kind of love in his life, he would have never become Batman.
Yeah.
That's the love that only parents and Seth's fandom can give you.
Yes. Well, we continue... Oh, my
Sorry.
God.
Was that too dark? I
No.
feel like maybe that was that too dark night?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
boy. Here we go.
Oh, Pun City. We are back. Yeah. Stop the steal.
Okay.
The dawn of something. I had to take a drink.
The dawn of Stiffy.
Stuffy. Siffy. Oh, no.
We continue our Snyder Trilogy discussion, even though we're going over 4 films, technically, intended to be a trilogy. And today we're doing Batman vs. Superman, Dawn of Justice.
Ultimate Edition.
Ultimate Edition.
Just to be clear, because there was a theatrical version that got put out. I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it either. But it's the one that truly got eviscerated by people. Then the Ultimate Edition came out, and I'd say for the people who were upset when the original one came out, most of their grievances were fixed in this extra 30 minutes that was added. So
I liked it better, but it wasn't like when I saw the Ultimate Justice League version, which to me, I was like, oh, that's a completely different movie. This makes so much more sense.
no, this
But
definitely
this
was
one just added a few scenes.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh,
Yeah.
cool.
well, this was definitely an extended version versus an original version of a reshot movie.
Right.
So we'll get into those in the next 2 weeks. But here we are with BVS Ultimate Edition.
Not to be confused with VBS.
Yes.
I was like, when you say it like that, it sounds, I'm a big fan of Ultimate BVS.
Yeah.
If I'm honest with you guys.
Vacation Bible School. Yeah, so where we've been, we just did Man of Steel, and actually we kind of went into it thinking this is going to be negative, but we did a 6-1. So we came out, we had a positive point of view on that.
Yeah.
We enter. This is the interesting part. This is where the Reddit community goes, off the rails.
Yeah.
With this trilogy,
Quite probably the most divisive of the Zack Snyder DC movies.
Yeah.
And I say that because there were more divisive movies and more controversial movies that came out, but Zack Snyder did not direct them.
Technically, Seth doesn't know this for sure because he was banned from the Zack Snyder
I was.
Reddit, so there
Well,
might be more
specifically
divisiveness.
the Snyder Cut subreddit.
Oh, okay.
Apparently saying something positive about Zack Snyder and chastising someone who is being unnecessarily an asshole is what will get you banned from the Snyder Cut subreddit.
Yeah.
So fuck you guys.
I know, that's what I went on the vegan subreddit and said I actually had a good steak today, and it was weird. I
And
was
then
like,
suddenly DCS was at your house. It got weird.
yeah, I love carrots. Don't get me wrong, but I had a good steak today. Damn vegans and their carrots.
I know. Damn Snyder bros and they're hating people defending Snyder. Oh my god.
Yes.
There's a
You didn't defend him right.
There's some kind of Facebook group that people always ask comedy stand-up show related questions, and it's Nashville based, and they tag me in it. And every time I answer the question, my thing gets removed for breaking the codes of conduct for the group. So many people will ask
you are
questions.
a vulgar
and
piece of shit online. Let's be real.
It looks like I'm just not answering. It looks like people are tagging Drew Davis,
Yeah.
and Drew is like, "Well, figure it out." That's why they call it your problems.
That's
But
hilarious.
I promise, if you're reading this because you hate me so much, or reading this, what are we?
Yeah.
The subtitles are on.
And he puts out a transcript.
Yeah.
If you're reading the transcripts and
yeah.
you're like, that's that guy that didn't respond to I just want you to know it ails me every day because I
Yeah.
did respond. But
Yeah.
For those of you who don't know, while Drew is a completely clean comedian, he's a very vulgar piece of shit online.
Oh, yeah.
yeah.
Nothing but F words and C words, and it's crazy to watch. It's kind of hilarious
Yeah,
to me.
just drop
Yep.
it like it's hot.
He's brought down entire governments.
He has.
Speaking of bringing down governments, we haven't heard your rant yet. I don't know if there's a transition to it.
Okay,
But I want,
there
I-
really,
I-
there
Seth has a
really
rant.
isn't. Here's the thing. I the biggest complaint I see about this movie is with the Martha sequence. Okay, when Batman has literally got a kryptonite spear to Superman's face, and Superman is just like, look, I don't care what happens, just save Martha. And Batman's like, what? And he's like, save Martha. Why did you say that name? Why did you? It's his mom. Like, that's the
that was a perfect play-by-play.
Thank you.
I
actually liked yours better than what was in the movie.
Thank you. I figured you would. Here's the thing, okay? This is truly the first time we have seen a version of Superman this incredibly humanized. And in this whole movie, Batman is looking at Superman as basically a nuclear weapon level alien that one tiny little trigger could send everything off the rails, and he's just destroying the earth. This is the first time he actually has some ability to realize that even though he's Superman, there is a version of him, just like Bruce and Batman, there is a version of this Superman that is a down-to-earth human being, okay? And so all of you fucking people who hate this thing, even though it's not like it was just something stupid, it literally, Zack Snyder and the other writer for the movie realized that both mothers have canonically been named Martha since their fucking inception, and they put it in the movie. If you don't like the Martha scene, then you're a fucking heartless bastard, and I hate you.
Wow.
Well, I see where you're coming from.
Wow.
Shall we get going?
I see where you're coming from.
Wow.
Can I just say, first
Anger.
of all, this is a safe space to express your opinions.
Thank you.
Also, I disagree.
Yeah, I know. You're a heartless piece of shit.
Online especially.
Oh, yeah, of course. And while I agree with the sentiment and the why they got to where they were, these people are paid lots of money to put together good sequences. And that was such a stupid.
I teared up in the theater.
I teared up too.
It hit me hard.
Tears of agony.
It hit me so hard emotionally. Because A, I didn't even realize that both of their moms were named Martha until that very moment.
Okay,
and then B, it's like I said, it's just for the first time, because we've seen that we have Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne and Batman, who at this point has been doing this for 20 years. He's seen the death of his best friend and ward, Robin, at the hands of the Joker. He's finally at a place where he is saying, fuck it, and he's tired of the crime, and so he's killing people. For the first time on screen for Batman, he's literally gunning people down with guns. He's tired of everyone's shit.
That the visions, or did we?
No, it's all throughout the movie.
Is he doing it?
Throughout the movie.
I thought I caught that this time. I don't love that, but I'm okay with it.
Again, it's this version of Batman. Yeah. Most of the versions of Batman we've seen have been him relatively early on in the career. We've never seen a fully fledged 20-year veteran Batman.
Yeah.
And so because he's for the first time now seeing this otherworldly threat, because we're assuming that we're sticking with the Batman villains in his Gotham City up until Superman becomes a thing.
And in his defense, he did see Man of Steel really close up, where he saw the buildings falling apart, killing his buddy.
Yeah.
So for him, he's seen both Superman and Zod at the same time and can see what Superman could become at the wrong moment. And so, for him, he's nothing but a threat. He's nothing but a weapon. And this is the first time in the entire situation where he actually understands there's a human aspect to this character, which is something that I feel like we touched on a lot in Man of Steel, was that the whole point of Man of Steel was to get us as the audience to see the human side of Superman. And so to me, that's why that moment was so incredibly impactful to see. And sure, maybe the delivery could have been a little better. Maybe something else could have been done a little better to make it hit harder for more people. Yeah. But for me, I absolutely loved that moment because, like I said, I didn't even realize that their moms were both named Martha until the very end of that. So.
Well, that's what, hour 3? I mean, by this time, and I'll say
2.5.
They still have the whole second movie of Doomsday with and adding Wonder Woman. They should have stopped at that fight with the resolution. And then movie 3 should have been when they introduced Doomsday and Wonder Woman, and so much of this movie's plot issues, not all of them, but a lot of the issues would have been resolved for me if
possibly
they just took this movie, and because they could have done a whole different story and build up and connection with Batman and Superman, because they became buddies way too quickly. At least for me, I'm gonna need a moment. If you just tried to kill me with a kryptonite spear, I'm gonna need a couple. I'm gonna need some before I trust you with go saving my mom. I'm gonna need a couple.
I don't disagree with that, but again, his goal at that point was to kill Batman or ask him to save him. Literally, he looked at Lois and was just like, I don't really want to, but I have to ask the Bat to help me with this.
He should have said something like, hey, I don't know, like his dialogue before the fight. Kyle, are we getting like way off topic before we even get on?
No,
topic?
it's good.
Okay.
I'm minding my notes.
Yeah,
'cause
so
I also produced the show, so I'm just like,
that was another issue I had that again, and I talked about this in the last movie, but it wasn't as big of a deal for the last movie, but it's a huge deal in this movie, is all the dialogue is ridiculous. Either it's funny ridiculous or it takes away from the plot ridiculous. So anytime Jesse Eisenberg speaks, I think it's so terrible, but it's fun. Like they should have not named him Lex Luthor and just made him his own little psychopathic character. But like,
we'll get into Jesse Eisenberg later. I have a whole thing on that.
There should have been I wish I'd written down the exact words he said before they fought, because it should have been something like, hey, Lex Luthor's captured my mother and blackmailing us to fight. Can we please work together to save this?
I mean, he tried to say that, and Batman just kept punching him.
He said, I think his words were like, no, you don't understand, or wait, stop. Okay, no. I guess we're doing this.
The very first thing he starts to say is, I need your help, this, and before he can get any of it out, Batman comes and shoots him with the kryptonite and starts hitting him.
Yeah.
Like, he tried. He legitimately tried, and again, Batman is so overtaken by his anger at that point that he's not really listening to him. So, I mean, I disagree with you. It made complete sense.
So, I think and again, these people are paid a lot more money than me to figure out how to make a good movie. So I feel like it's more responsibility on them. But if it was me, I actually, knowing that the movie's called Batman vs. Superman, him trying to reason with Batman, we already know is not going to work at all. So there does need to be that big fight scene. That's what we came to the theaters to watch.
Literally.
So
and there's a reason that whole sequence is shot in the IMAX format.
Yeah. There should have been similar to how there was an almost ending conclusion, but then Batman on his own merit, maybe through something Alfred said, maybe Lois gets there in time, maybe something pops up on the screen and Lex Luthor's like, time's up, now I'm going to go kill your mom or whatever. Batman should have figured it out without a stupid Martha line. And then that could have enlisted the entire, what you just said about the beauty of that moment. And then that's when they could have worked together. Maybe something else could have happened. Maybe there could have been some situation on Batman's end that was equally as troubling, where he gets a phone call from Alfred and he's got to go resolve that. I mean, there could have been so many situations where the fight ended in a almost draw, and then they went and they saved the day together. It did not need to end with such a cheesy, which has to go down in the line of superhero movie history as the dumbest.
Oh, right. I disagree. I don't think it's a cheesy line at all. I thought it was a very great moment. And even in the theater, I was like, this is awesome. So
maybe the next one should have been just they teamed together to only save women named Martha.
Yeah.
Only Marthas.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're gonna load up.
The villain is the Marthanator.
Yeah. We're gonna get a tanker outside on the coast of Gotham, and we're just gonna load it up with Marthas and take them to safety.
Martha Stewart's at the head of everything.
Yeah.
Plot twist: she's the villain. She works with Dr.
I
Dre.
could be the only Martha.
How can you betray us? Yeah, it's an interesting discussion. I hate to say it, I do kind of side with Drew, but for different reasons.
Okay, hold on a second. A simple I side with Drew for different reasons would have been just fine.
No, you're a vulgar piece of shit online, so it had to be with a little bit of begrudging.
Yeah.
Okay.
He's not.
I'm not going to disagree with any of this, but it is going to make people look me up online and be very confused.
Yeah, because they're going to find out you're actually just a nice guy. And very professional.
Oh my God.
My thing is I feel, again, I approached this, I didn't read the comics. I never intended to. I want to look at these as movies and standalone pieces, right? I feel like by the time the Martha thing comes around, I've been loaded up with a lot of context, and there's a lot of callbacks they plant into the movies and this, like into the next ones too in Justice League. And but I feel just kind of like overwhelmed. I'm I'm missing the Martha thing. It didn't hit me till that moment, and I think it just didn't hit me.
Yeah,
because I feel like I'm loaded up with so much other story.
You were just like, okay,
yeah,
I guess that's a thing.
The first hour and a half of the movie is pretty dialogue heavy, actually. Yeah, considering that it's superhero movies, and I'm just kind of like, because by this time we've already seen Congress explode, right?
Yeah,
and it's like I'm just kind of like, my brain's a little fried. And by the time we get to the Martha thing, I'm just like, oh, yeah, they're both named Martha.
Yeah.
You know, it just like I just feel like I've been loaded up with so much story at this point, and that's why it didn't really pack a punch for me. And then, but the way you're talking about, I'm like, yeah, it is kind of cheesy, you know. It's
See,
kind of
for me, it calls back to the moment that Zod was about to kill his mom in the first one, and he literally busts through the wall and saying, "Don't you touch my mother."
yeah.
Like it was, to me, it was that kind of callback where, like, you know how overprotective, as much as we think he's protective of Lois, he's even more protective of his mom, because that's the last family that he has.
The Kansas Farm Boys mom.
You don't.
Yeah.
And so I don't know. For me, like as at that point, I was so invested in the story itself in theaters and when I saw the Ultimate Edition, that for me, I don't know, it hit very hard for me.
I think my biggest, maybe what's colored my opinion of that scene is my biggest problem with the movie was how they portrayed Superman.
Okay.
Any kind of character development, positive character development they did in Man of Steel, I felt like Batman versus Superman just completely crapped on.
In what way? I'm curious.
He became the plot device for the question of, should these all-powerful superhero aliens be worshipped or be held in check, or are they criminals? Suddenly hit. I mean, every scene we saw him in, it was all about people either, like not liking him, not wanting, like they. Then there, to me, the greatest point of this was the cheesy scenario where he saved a kid from a burning building and everyone hero worshipped him right there, which is going back to the whole point of the movie. Is, from Batman's perspective, people are either worshiping him or there's people that should be concerned for them. And then, of course, you have Lex Luthor in the same movie who's like way over the top past the extremist route of not worshiping him. And and really,
also manufacturing some of the rage against him.
I feel like by this movie, I might be wrong because we never get the whole series, but Batman is the main character of these movies. Batman is the hero. Batman's the person that Snyder is like setting the plot around.
Yes, because this was not, I just want to make this clear, this was not Man of Steel 2. Snyder had another idea for Man of Steel 2 that was going to come after the first Justice League movie.
Oh, yeah.
But I thought Ben Affleck was fantastic. I would have loved to see more of him. I would have loved to see a Batman versus Deathstroke movie.
Oh, that would have been so good.
I feel like I was a fan, and I wanted to know more about like what happened to Robin at the Joker stand. That would have been a movie too.
Yeah.
That also, it was alluded to that it might be the Red Hood and not his original Robin, because he sees a different grave with Robin. So like, there's all this. He did set up the scene, and I liked watching Ben Affleck as Batman. I just felt like there was like no character development for Superman. There was and everything about him, it just went back to like the ethical question of his existence. Which is a little bit more than Man of Steel, but not enough to like make a whole movie about.
See, this is where I would disagree with you. Is I do see some significant character development with Superman and Clark, because in the first movie, it was just he finally felt unleashed, because the whole time before he puts on the suit, his dad's like, keep yourself hidden. Don't let anyone know who you are. Then he finally unleashes at the end of that movie, and now he is doing the thing that Superman fans want, which is the everyday, oh, someone's in trouble, I'm going to leave and disappear and go save them and then come back. He's doing that thing, but then he's also having to answer for when he did unshackle himself completely and destroyed the entirety of Metropolis, which again, they did this a year before Civil War did. Civil War, which I know I'm going to get so much hate for saying this. Civil War is my least favorite Marvel movie. I think it was...
There's so many worse ones to pick from.
This is my absolute dog shit least favorite.
That's
you
fair.
Think that the change between Batman and Superman was quick. How about the fact that we had, 8-9 movies of buildup of Tony Stark doing his thing, and then out of nowhere, some random ass mother crying about a kid who died that he's never seen before. Suddenly, he's just like, "Oh, I've got the moral high ground now. I need to say that we need to do better." When he's literally that's the exact opposite of Tony Stark's character.
Yeah.
So to compare those two moments, which are pretty significant in both movies, I feel like this movie handled the aftermath of an all-out god-level brawl in the middle of a modern city.
Well, and the big thing for this movie, in addition to the end of Man of Steel was the beginning when Jimmy Olsen, and I put quotes in because they completely just took the name of one character and put it on different.
Yeah.
But when he got murdered and when like that Luthor framed him for that whole, so that is very real. But what I don't know, the Superman that I would be used to handles all of that a lot better than this one.
Sure. This is Superman 18 months into being Superman. We've established in the first one, he's pulling everything out of his ass at this point, as far as like his ethics, his morals. How is he going to handle being this all-powerful being? And now he's having to go through not only trying to do the hero thing, but also immediately having to answer for the consequences of his actions in the first one.
But it's a movie, and does he have to be so boring?
I don't think he was boring.
He was so monotone, so one-dimensional. The most I liked him, I would say there were probably 3 scenes that I found him slightly redeemable in. The first time he meets Batman, where he's just like, "You're done."
Yeah,
that was pretty cool.
I
do kind of like that scene the first time Clark Kent and Bruce Wayne meet each other.
Yeah,
that's kind of a fun scene with Jesse Eisenberg knowing everything. He's the person who knows what's going on, but he's still kind of like pointing at them. And then the scene that then when he's being blackmailed by Lex Luthor, and that you do get to see his emotion, you do get to see his struggle, you do. Kind of like you were saying, Kyle, at that point, we were so many hours in that I was like, am I still watching this movie? Like, is this, have I fallen into this world? Is this reality?
We're getting loaded up.
Yeah. But I just, throughout the whole movie, like it became like a shift to Batman's the main focus, which don't get me wrong, Batman's great and a good character on his own.
His name also comes first in the title.
It's true. But these are 2 really big names in superhero-dom. They have 2 very different personalities. The way their stories work best is when they're both equally spotlighted and conflicting. And it just feels like this movie only shows it properly from Batman's perspective. Don't get me wrong, I really liked I would have loved to see more Batman Ben Affleck movies. But I just feel like I found myself getting bored with Superman, and I felt like he became a plot device in this movie.
Interesting. I see it from such a different perspective, because I feel like it hit both characters super well. I feel for Superman by the end of the whole thing because of him realizing how much power he truly does, without even saying the Spider-Man, moniker of "with great power comes great responsibility." I feel like that dawning on him really showed in the movie. So that's where I'm like, I don't see him as a one-dimensional character in this movie. I see significant changes, especially with the fact that he's decided to sacrifice himself at the end of the movie. Like in the first movie, he wins by killing the bad guy, and that's it. In this, he realizes the only way he can kill the bad guy is if he dies too. So I see him from going from like the struggle of what am I supposed to do to finally ending this movie with, no, if I'm going to be the hero, I have to do the thing that heroes do, which is sacrifice myself and everything I want for the greater good of humanity, which he does.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah. I like watching you two just you're like 2 blunt instruments.
Don't talk about my penis that way.
I will say that one thing I did appreciate the movie before we go into actual what we were talking about. I regularly quote one of Martha Kent's lines to Superman to people frequent when she's telling Superman, you can be all these things or you can be none of them. It's completely up to you. I feel like when I've interacted with young people like who are like really talented and deal with like the pressure of like show business and like what to do, I tell them like, look, you could do all this stuff, but if it doesn't like make you happy, like you don't actually have to do any of it.
Yeah.
And, like I feel like I've quoted Martha Kent because when I saw that in this movie, I was like, oh, this is where I've heard that line that I say to other people.
Yeah.
Also, the scene between him and the ghost of his father up at the top of that mountain. How can you not say that that's such an emotionally charged
at that
moment?
Point, I was so bored with the movie that I was like, oh, okay. Like I'll be honest, I felt like I was just like this whole movie was like,
let's get Kevin Costner back in here.
See, That's what confuses me, because I respect and accept your opinion, even though I vastly disagree with it, because I'm never once during this movie have been bored.
Really?
I absolutely am just glued to the screen the whole time.
Yeah.
So that's where it like confuses me when people are like, it was boring, it was this, it was that. I'm like, how? Just, I don't understand it. So
Yeah.
What were your thoughts, Kyle?
Well, I just think there's
It's okay if you disagree with me, even if you hate to disagree.
well, I agree with Drew, but for different reasons. No. I had so many thoughts while you were both were talking, but some of the things that kind of came to mind were, first of all, is the going back to the Martha thing. What that kind of knocked loose for me was this idea that we needed another Batman origin story where we see his parents get killed again. I just like
which we see in this movie.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
We see it all the time. Every
Right.
Batman. Every time we kick off Batman again, we get the like.
That's not true, actually. It wasn't in any. It wasn't obviously not in the Adam West one. It wasn't in either Michael Keaton ones. It wasn't until Batman Forever that we first see that on screen. That we don't see it again in Batman and Robin, and then we do see it the one time in Batman Begins.
I know,
literally
but
only 2 times.
I feel like I've seen it so many times. Like, and did they just put it in there for the Martha thing? Because other than that, I don't think this movie's already got a long run time.
Yeah,
Like,
He's
an older.
to remind you of Martha, but also to set you up. Like, I feel like oh, we're about to watch Batman, which I always wondered about that, because I'm like, anyone who knows about Batman knows that this is a thing that happens. But I do feel like when you're making a movie, maybe one of the questions you're answering is like, how do I make this connect to people who've never heard of Batman or Superman?
Yeah, I do think in this type of instance, that is something that needed to be brought up, especially in the way that he did it, because it harkens back to the intro of Watchmen for me, where he's got 50, 60 years of timeline that he's trying to shove into a 2-minute opening sequence.
Yeah.
And so for this, I do feel like that was the appropriate way to introduce it, make it some visual moments, but don't like Batman Begins did, don't make it the entire crux of this whole sequence.
The only thing that, and I remember thinking of this when I was watching it this last time, that they Snyderversed it with, that I thought was overwhelmingly cheesy, was at the end when the bats raised the child out of the cave.
Okay, so I have a fun fact for that. So it came out in theaters. I watched it, enjoyed it. Then the Ultimate Edition came out, and me and my friend James and his brother David were sitting in their living room watching it. So we're now, 4 minutes into the movie when that happens? David, James's younger brother, immediately perks up and goes, I wonder how many bats that would actually take to do that. He spent the rest of the movie, the next 3 hours, furiously researching, like, okay, so if we had the weight of one 1 foot piece of dental floss connected to the bat and connected to him, how much lift would that produce? He literally emailed a PhD who is the world's highest expert in this particular type of bat that was used in the movie.
Wow.
Within 30 minutes, the guy emailed him back because he was probably like, holy shit, somebody read something I wrote. This is incredible.
Yeah.
We found out by the end of the movie, it would have taken, I think the number was 10+ million bats.
Wow.
To raise an 80-pound kid off the ground.
That's batshit crazy.
That's a lot of bad shit.
Here's the only reason I forgive it, though. It's a dream.
Yeah.
That's the only reason I forgive it, because otherwise I would completely agree with you.
You saw that it was a dream sequence, which I got a little tired of the dreams. I saw what they were doing with the dream sequences, but I was like, this wouldn't be a freaking 3-hour movie if we had less dreams.
Sure. But again, as we talked about with Man of Steel, the problem that Zack Snyder had from the very beginning was he was setting up when Iron Man was made, even Iron Man 2, and the Incredible Hulk, I don't think they fully realized they were going to be making the MCU. That was probably in the back of Kevin Feige's brain, but I think he was more concerned with just making superhero movies that worked. This, from the get-go, was Warner Brothers saying, you are about to create an entire cinematic universe of the Justice League. Have fun. So, for having that monumental task in front of him, I do think that the dream sequences were very important, because the scene with Barry showing up, with the Flash showing up, was supposed to be the climax of Justice League 2, where Barry goes back in time to give Bruce that message. And that's why he says, am I too soon? Because it's not at the right moment for him to understand what is going on, what's going to be happening with Superman in the future. So legitimately,
Yeah.
he was setting up something that was going to happen in his plan 4 movies later.
Yeah. Which
So-
I think and I said this in the last episode, my critique with the Snyderverse is he spent, and not just him, I'm sure there were multiple people, they spent so much setting things up for
Yes.
a perfect universe, for a perfect franchise, that they forgot each movie should in some way stand on its own.
I agree with you. And this is, I will be the first person to say, I do not think this one in particular is a perfect movie. Of the 3 that I consider to be the real movies, Man of Steel, BVS, and the Snyder Cut, I do consider this one to definitely be the weakest. I don't think it's as shitty as some people would like to act like it is. I think it is.
It was fun.
A
It was
very fun
Like,
superhero
it was fun
movie.
watching the CGI and the fight scenes.
Yeah, like it's I think a reasonably well made movie. I think the Ultimate Edition tied up a lot of loose ends and a lot of problems that people had with the theatrical version. But I also think a lot of times people forget with having by this point now 7 years of Marvel movies, he was under a lot of pressure to really get Justice League out. Like that was Warner Brothers' #1 goal, was we got to get to Justice League as quickly as possible because they've already passed us twice with 2 Avengers movies, not just Avenger adjacent, like actual 2 Avengers movies by then. So he had a lot that he had to put together in order to get to the Justice League movie 2 years later. Also remember, there were 2 years between Man of Steel and this, and then 2 years between this and the original release of Justice League. Like, they did not give him, I think, the time to really solidify what he was trying to do large scale.
Yeah. Speaking of large scale, hey, if you're watching, thank you. And if this is your first time hanging out with us at the Movie Wars podcast, you might be very confused. I get it. This is a great heated debate.
Yeah.
It's not usually like this, but this is fun. I'm
Yeah.
enjoying it because I'm not the superhero guy, and so I'm just kind of watching these 2 gladiators. But hey, hit subscribe, follow, share. I know you got a friend out there on Reddit that's just talking shit about these movies.
Who's
Send
not
it to
banned
them.
from the Snyder Cut subreddit.
Who's not banned like Seth here. Send it to a friend, share. That's the easiest way to grow movies, and it's free. And you get to
Yes.
feel good about yourself.
You
There
do.
we go.
And you get to see 2 white guys yell at each other about Batman and Superman.
Hey,
Really, there's not enough white guys yelling about comics.
Yeah.
Yeah.
In this
Yeah,
world.
there really isn't. Yeah, we're short on white guys.
I love that. I'm picturing all the mean things people are thinking or saying.
Yeah.
As I said that.
Oh, I can't. I've viscerally prepared myself for the amount of hate I'm going to
Yeah.
get for defending this movie.
Yeah.
So
You should name your next comedy special "Short on White Guys."
Oh my gosh, yeah.
I would love that. That would be amazing.
Perfect.
That'd be great. Yeah.
The question.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I should say, as I've been shitting on the movie a little bit, like I actually, in some ways, enjoyed this one better than Man of Steel because it was like more action packed.
Yeah.
Right.
Mhm.
Like when I go in to watch these kind of movies, I don't go in expecting, man, this is gonna be a great plot. This is gonna keep me thinking for days. My problem with the Snyderverse movies is that it's like they promise they're gonna be a great plot and we'll be thinking for days, and then they give us all the slow motion
Mhm.
and none of the payoff.
this one barely had any slow motion compared to any of his other movies, by
Yeah.
the way. So I will say,
Yeah.
I think he did a good job holding back here.
Yeah.
And I also here's the other thing, y'all. Zack Snyder is his own director. He makes his own visual style. Walking into a Zack Snyder movie and not expecting slow motion is like walking into a Quentin Tarantino movie and not expecting a lot of feet shots.
Yeah.
Okay? It's like walking into a Christopher Nolan movie and not expecting there to be some sort of commentary on time.
Yeah.
Like, this is his visual style. This is the way he does things. If you don't like it, don't watch his fucking movies, okay? Just expect it, enjoy it for what it is, and move the fuck on. Okay?
Unless you got to talk about it on a podcast.
Yeah.
I know.
Then you have to watch
it.
it.
Then yeah, you kind of got to rant, but you know, whatever.
Yeah.
The questions.
The questions.
Did anyone else think that Jesse Eisenberg's Lex Luthor was like watching a tweaked out Mark Zuckerberg doing a Joker impression?
That's exactly what it was supposed to be.
He was tweaked out, man, and I thought it was like he
Right.
almost was acting like the Joker in some ways.
Have you met tech bros like that? That's what they look like.
I mean, yeah, I've been in tech for a long time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a stretch. I had divided opinions because I think I actually based on what I've seen of Jesse Eisenberg, I do think I like his acting style. I
Yeah.
liked he was a good villain in this movie. Like the way he was able to outsmart both Batman
Yeah.
and Superman and put them against it. Now that's a very Lex Luthor move there.
Yes.
In general. However, it was like they were saying we want to have Lex Luthor and just not have Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
And I've seen arguments where they drew from different inspirations from the comics, or he was a different version, or even arguments where he's a clone of Lex Luthor, which is based off of different comic books. I think it's just easier in my brain to put him as a not Lex Luthor. But I mean, he was a good villain, but he absolutely seemed like it seemed like he was coked out 90%
And
of the
doing
movie.
a Joker impression.
But again, I think that was the point, because again, from the moment Man of Steel started, Zack Snyder was very clear, this is not going to be your typical Superman. And the last time we had seen Lex Luthor on screen was Kevin Spacey, who was pretty much an attempt to just be the clone of the original Christopher Reeve Superman's Lex Luthor. So we had really only seen two interpretations, but one type of Lex Luthor on screen. For the world that Zack Snyder was creating, which was, again, answering the people who wanted a more Christopher Nolan vibe to the Superman series, he pulled from modern day tech people to kind of get the vibe of what would Lex Luthor look like in our world today. He would look like a Mark Zuckerberg. He would look like a Jeff Bezos. He would look like an Elon Musk. He would look like those types of people. And Elon Musk is incredibly ADHD. Mark Zuckerberg, even when he's calm, seems like he's incredibly coked out all the time. And then by the end of the movie, he looks like Jeff Bezos. So I kind of feel like I think he played it well to be a different interpretation of what would have fit in this world. I don't think a brawny, bald, Clancy Brown voiced kind of guy would have fit in this universe.
And then I wonder if it would have been better received, though, because we talked about this maybe in the last episode, or maybe we've just talked about it in general, where like there's a fine line in like modernizing a well-known character and like, or when is it time to create a new character?
Sure.
And I would have received it better if he made an entirely new character and you kind of knew going it was based off of Lex Luthor, but maybe just call him Alex.
So I don't disagree with that. The problem was one of the bigger criticisms of Man of Steel was that Lex Luthor wasn't in it.
Yeah.
At the time, that was something people were very upset about, and so Lex Luthor had to be.
So we're seeing a reoccurring theme here that I think might also be maybe an issue with these movies is everything about these movies is a response to critics.
Yes.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
All the problems, it's always gone back, well, people were saying this, so we tried to do this.
Yeah, and then they do a new cut. It's like, oh, we heard your feedback. We put that stuff back in the movie.
Yeah.
It's like, that's not how this works.
And with this movie in particular, this is both where Snyder really tried to lean into his own vision, and he kept fighting Warner Brothers at every turn. Every time he wanted to do something, it was meddled with. That's why the final cut that was in theaters was 30 minutes shorter than what the Ultimate Edition was, because things kept getting fucked with by Warner Brothers. So this, while Man of Steel, I think, was a very Warner Brothers, DC version of a Zack Snyder movie, this, I feel like, especially knowing the background and internally what was going on, this movie was definitely, you could see the warring factions of Warner Brothers wanted this, Zack Snyder wanted to do this, and what
Snyder
came out
versus Warner Brothers,
literally
of justice.
Yeah, and I think what came out of it in the theatrical version was just a bumbling mess outside of a couple of things, and even with the extended cut, which cleaned up some things that people had complaints about. Again, this is why I do consider it to be the weakest of the three films, is because there was, I don't think he was allowed to have his vision. I think Warner Brothers, and we've seen this more as Kevin Feige has become more and more micromanaging with the Marvel movies instead of just letting directors do their thing. I think they became so micromanaging that it was very difficult for him to do what he wanted to do.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't like the trend. It's not really a trend, but I hope it doesn't become one. That's like, just kidding. Here's the real movie. Like, I get it. Like, there's a better movie out there, and I get it. Whether it's the director or the studio.
Yeah.
I'm not I'm not really like here to give you multiple shots
Yeah.
with movies. I have too many to watch
Yeah.
and too many to cover that I'm like, oh look, they took the movie I hated and they re-released it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
no,
Maybe
it's
I'll
like-
like it this
yeah.
time. Oh, and it's 3 hours longer. I think
I mean,
Also,
it's
like-
all Peter Jackson's fault because he made incredible theatrical versions of Lord of the Rings and then put out the extended
Yeah.
versions, and somehow they were just as good, if not better.
Yeah.
And so that became kind of the expectation. But even his extended version of King Kong was terrible.
Yeah.
It did not need to happen.
But the Lord of the Rings were great
Oh,
at the
yeah.
beginning.
Yeah.
They
Exactly.
started great. And
Exactly.
like, oh, he put out more great.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't like seeing shit and then saying, oh, they added more stuff to shit.
Well, that's
Yeah.
the thing is, previous to that, director's cuts were usually just seen as putting the director's deleted, like favorite deleted scenes back in the movie. They
Yeah.
didn't really add
or more
much.
violence.
Yeah.
The violence they couldn't
Like
put.
an
Right.
unrated cut or
And
something.
it usually
yeah.
equates to 8 to 10 minutes, if
Yeah.
that, of
Peter-
extra footage.
Peter Jackson and Snyder at this point are really the only two directors that I've seen do extended cuts that really change the dynamic of the movie.
Yeah.
And I think his extended cut of Watchmen is way better than the original version.
Yeah.
I think obviously his cut of Justice League is better than what Joss Whedon put out. But this one, again, while I do think it cleaned up some stuff, I think you would have even more complaints if we watched the theatrical version.
Well, and
Um,
I'd seen it. I don't think I'd seen the Ultimate one until this watch. I think the only one I'd ever seen was the theatrical one because
Yeah.
I think one of the things that I thought was positive was a scene that I either missed or it wasn't part of the theatrical version. But when Superman goes to Gotham and is learning about the Bat vigilante,
Yeah.
that I remember when I was watching that, I was like, oh, I don't think this was in the
I don't think so
and-
either.
And now that was a scene that, like, to me added because you're setting up the momentum between the two
Yeah.
of them.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah, I definitely can agree. This is not a perfect movie. And I also think when we get to the scorecard, my biggest complaint is going to come with the physical writing of the script. So I'm sure we're all actually going to agree there. But I don't think it's the shitstorm people act like it is online.
I don't know. I kind
I
of
don't-
want it to be a shitstorm.
I don't think it's the shitstorm, but I don't think it's the magnum opus either.
No,
Yeah.
it's not though.
Oh,
It's,
yeah.
See, that's the thing is this
Yeah.
one especially is not his magnum opus. And even in the, like I said, in that extended cut, I can see where you had two people pulling on the rope trying to go different directions.
Yeah.
I also don't love nowadays that like, and it's especially with the DC universe. Like, look, we all have bosses we've had to work for that suck and make us have to follow their ways. And like, I don't like how like it's so common knowledge about the DC. Like, I am stressed out
Right.
because of the knowledge for the like. I shouldn't have that when I go to a movie. Like, it should just be a movie.
Right.
you
Well,
know?
this has all come out since the movie came out. Like a lot, and even a lot of this came out after Ray Fisher sued Warner Brothers and Joss Whedon
Yeah.
over their behavior on Justice League. So we'll get to that next time. But yeah, a lot of this wasn't out at the time, and it's now only looking back that I can really see. Oh, this is what happens when studios don't let directors just do their thing. Sure, have opinions. A lot of times things will get changed and it's for the better. There have been, I think we've talked about a couple examples where studio execs came in and were like, change this, and it was actually better in the long run.
Crow City of Angels.
Yeah, exactly. But for this, it's one of those like,
I
why
hate that movie so much.
why hire a director with such a specific visual style of storytelling if you're just gonna cripple him while he tries to do what he does?
Yeah.
Same thing with like Edgar Wright doing Ant-Man. Like, why would you hire someone who literally has one of the most distinctive visual styles in all of film history? It'd be like telling Wes Anderson to not make everything symmetrical.
Yeah.
Like, why the fuck would you hire Wes Anderson then if you didn't want a perfectly symmetrical movie the whole time?
Right.
And that's what I feel like happened with this, is they hired a very distinctive director and were trying to tell him not to do his thing.
They basically wanted him to make Marvel movies.
Yeah, literally.
Yeah.
And even though his goal was to not make Marvel movies.
Yeah. Next question. What do you think Batman would have liked Superman better if he had the trunks? I just think that automatically kind of lifts up the likability. Even though he may be a nuclear weapon that's going to destroy us, look at those trunks. Those are pretty cool.
It makes it more humanized. It's like, oh, well, maybe he has bad passion too. Like,
Yeah.
so do humans. Maybe no. I think he would have wanted to kill him more. Because of Trunks. I don't think he would have stopped. I don't think even once he realized that he's got to name his mom's name Martha, he'd be like, yeah, but those red trunks got to go.
Yeah, and like the Martha scene, it would have been like, is she the one that put the red trunks on you?
Right? So,
Did she dress you?
Yeah.
No, I feel like on set, Batman hated Superman so much because they hadn't edited his dick out yet. And so the whole time he's just staring at the massive cock that he has. And he's just like, well, I can't please Jennifer the way you can. Be it Garner or Lopez.
Amazing. Randos. There were some really funny ones, including this one. Christian Bale only had one piece of advice to Ben Affleck. That was get a zipper on the suit. Because going to the bathroom is not easy if you don't have a zipper on the suit.
I love it.
So he actually did it.
fantastic.
He actually had the costume department put a zipper on it.
Hell yeah.
Can you imagine going to a public bathroom and peeing next to you and is Batman?
Yeah.
That'd be kind of great. It's like when Vigo was shooting Lord of the Rings, he would leave set in full costume with his sword because he wanted to like live the character as much as he could. And people were just like, yeah, there's a crazy guy swinging a sword just walking down the street.
Yeah.
I mean, like, I imagine most people when he's dressed, it's on set, there's a bathroom nearby to go. But there had to have been like one Uber Eats dude that was just dropping off a pastrami sandwich.
Yeah.
And before just uses the restroom, and he's like, oh, does his bat suit has a zipper?
Yeah.
Seriously, best thing we ever came up with.
You gotta drop trout at ankle just to go number one.
Yeah.
Like a 5-year-old.
Now, was it a zipper down the back, or was it a zipper like those shorts where you could take the legs off, where it was like around the waist so he could use them like pants?
He had a breakaway bat costume.
God. Remember convertible pants?
Oh my God, yeah.
Zipping off the legs, and they were cargo?
Yep.
What were they doing?
I had those when I was 8.
I did too. Yeah, it's like, when are you in a situation where on the spot you need to zip your legs off?
Yeah. Hey, sometimes it starts kind of cool and then it gets warm and your legs need ventilation.
Yeah.
So you just do the knees.
But then you just gotta tote your legs around.
That's what the cargo pockets are
That's
for.
right. Okay, now it's all making sense.
I was an exceptionally dorky individual as a child, but even I looked at those and were like, no.
Yeah.
No, thank you.
Where'd you grow up?
Brentwood, Tennessee.
Oh, okay. I was about to say, I grew up in Georgia, so the humidity was like, it'd be kind of nice in the morning, and then by 2, you'd be like, nope, the pant legs are coming off.
Yeah. Okay, Christian Bale isn't the only body transformation guy.
Oh.
Ben Affleck gained 20 pounds of muscle and got down to 8% body fat for this.
Nice.
I actually had a question I didn't have time for, but I was like, did anyone else enjoy the steroid era Batman?
Oh, yeah.
This is the Mark McGuire Batman here.
When they showed him like working out to fight Batman.
Oh, that was such a good scene.
Yeah, I did like that scene.
It was like, okay, good effort, but also not going to help.
Yeah.
The tech, maybe it was so he could wear all that armor. Like the tech helped. But him thinking like, oh crap, I got to fight Superman soon. I got time for about 3 good workouts.
Yeah.
Probably.
And you're going to laugh. As much as I criticize the Martha scene, I laughed my ass off thinking about it myself, about how funny it was, all the working out he did. That's the whole fight. I'm thinking, like, it's so funny he worked out for this.
Yeah, he really,
Well, granted, remember, he was under the correct assumption, that he was going to be shooting him with kryptonite dust.
Yeah.
So, he did even the odds.
It was interesting because, this goes back to the best critique to Batman. It's not necessarily bad, but it is a critique because everyone's always like, well, he's not a real superpower. He doesn't have he doesn't have superpowers. He's not a real superhero. Even
though technically his superpower is being insanely smart because he's the world's greatest detective.
And in every plot, it always goes back to, well, Batman will figure out a way.
Yeah.
And so like his plot armor is his superpower.
Yeah.
His superpower.
Always. Absolutely.
And it's when watching this movie, like, you're not annoyed by it, but you're like, it's not unlike when you were watching Zod versus Superman, and you're like, I can't tell, they're evenly matched.
Yeah, who's
like,
ahead here?
Yeah, like I know, because realistically, Superman could end the battle from the moment it started.
Yeah.
But his humanity and Batman's quick thinking are always reasons why they appear evenly matched. And we as viewers just have to be like, okay.
Yeah. I did like the callback, even though I don't know all the comics. I do know that like one of the interesting things about Batman in the comics is how he's brainy. You know,
Yeah.
there's this whole detective aspect,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
there's not a lot of detective Batman here, but this was a nice little callback to that.
Yeah.
I mean, there was enough of it with him trying to figure out who/what the white Portuguese was.
Yeah,
So I did enjoy, because that was kind of significantly less in the original version. I like that we got to see him actually looking for information on how to get the kryptonite. I thought that was cool. Do you mind if I do a rando?
please, rando it up,
Rando.
rando.
Jesse Eisenberg, I hope this isn't one of yours, but Jesse Eisenberg, when he got the news that he had booked Lex Luthor, got so excited that he immediately went and shaved his head and showed up on set. And Zach goes, "Oh, hey, buddy, we were going to use your hair for most of the movie."
Yeah.
And so that's why he has the god-awful wig for the whole movie, is because he got too excited and shaved his head immediately.
Wow.
That's hysterical.
So we would have had his
Doesn't that just
more...
seem like something the character of Lex Luthor
Yeah.
he portrays would do?
Yeah,
And here's the thing.
like
he had-
after PCP.
He had
yeah.
just come off of The Social Network and playing Mark Zuckerberg. So
Yeah.
I think like that's kind of where Zack Snyder's head was oh, he's going to look like a Mark Zuckerberg type tech guy. So that'll work. And then I think the biggest mistake with Lex Luthor's character in this was giving him that weird long hair. I think they should have gone for something a little more traditional tech bro-y with the way his hair was. So that the look of it definitely did throw me for probably when I first saw it, the first 30 minutes of the
Yeah.
movie.
Patagonia jacket. That's
Yeah,
all he needed
exactly,
to wear.
but just the vest, not the
Yeah,
full jacket.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Even
But
though
I
it's cold.
think if he'd had his natural hair, I think the character would have been received a little bit better.
Well, it actually links perfectly to another rando I have later, which is in a lot of interviews, Jesse Eisenberg has said that this hurt his career.
Yeah, unfortunately it did.
Yeah, he said he
And-
got passed over. He knows for a fact he's been passed over in roles since because they,
yeah.
they remember it. And then you tie it back to the hair thing. This whole thing was a cluster for Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah, I feel so bad for him because I love what he did with the character. I love he was given whatever he was given, agree with it or not, he was given what he was given, and he went 110% with it. I think even though some could consider his acting to be over the top, I think for that type of character, he did a really good job. I think he was on par with Paul Dano as Riddler in The Batman. I think he was a very similar level character.
Yeah. I think I think it would have been better for his career if they called him not Lex Luthor.
Fair.
Literally any name, including not Lex Luthor. Would have been better.
I think Paul Dano put his foot right in Eisenberg's ass.
Oh, yeah.
In this. I mean, he's, yeah. And
Yeah.
I didn't even like the Batman, but I love that.
I would have loved to see more Ben Affleck Batman. I would have.
Yeah.
I
Oh,
would have
yeah.
loved to see.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah,
I would have
every-
loved to see some independent independent. Indie
Yeah.
movies. You know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I would have loved to see him in a standalone movie. I would have loved to. It's just it felt like, even looking when you look at the Justice League and even when you look at the Flash, it feels like he was going to be the equivalent of like Iron Man, as in like the
Yeah.
staple hero.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Difference though is, Chris Evans' Captain America was equal to Iron Man as far as
Yeah.
cinematography, performance, everything. And I know we disagree on this, but like Superman in this movie, and then it gets even worse in the Justice League. Like he just is.
Well, he's dead for half the
he's-
movie.
He's there.
Yeah.
He's there, but it's like, okay, Gal Gadot does a better performance
Yeah.
as Wonder Woman than Henry Cavill does as Superman.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that next week.
Rando. This is crazy. The studio had a really hard time because Nolan was worked on the last one. They were really having a hard time figuring out like what this Batman was going to be.
Yeah.
And they were really concerned that they weren't going to be able to distinguish between this and the Nolan Batman.
Yeah.
So they actually, for a while, he considered casting Christian Bale in a different role just so that when people went to see the movie, they knew they were not getting Nolan Batman. It's like, hey,
so
look, he's over
random.
here. Christian Bale's over here. He's not Batman.
I'm so glad they didn't do
That
that.
is so like, I don't feel like that would have helped at all.
No.
It would have been worse.
That's one
Because-
of the best studio decisions was
Yeah.
to not do that.
Because someone who didn't like the performance would be like, they literally had Christian Christian Bale over there playing the newspaper guy.
Yes, and because of the nature of the whole canonization thing, like, and just how comic book fans are, the minute that Bale is a different character, and Affleck is like, is that Azrael? You know, people are gonna be like, wait a second, is that the real Wayne? Is it clone? Like, people would just. I think it immediately would have exploded the movie in the worst possible way.
Did he prestige this movie? What the fuck?
I think they did a good job of, Batman in this universe is older. Yeah. And so that set apart the difference between Christian Bale's Batman and Ben Affleck's Batman. Yeah. And I also think as the movies were going on, it was becoming more clear that this is an alternate dimension. This is Earth 2. This is the multiverse, which it doesn't matter to either of you guys probably, but like there's like the universe where the Injustice storyline happens is like the most fucked up of the universe. Yeah. It's like it's the one where all the superheroes become evil. It's the one where like the world's dark. And as you're watching the Snyderverse Superman and Justice League movies, you're thinking this is where this is headed.
Yeah. For me, it's like I look at this movie as what would have been chapter 2 of 10. And I feel like people saw this movie and immediately decided every other chapter was going to suck. Just because they had one part of the story they didn't like. I feel like if Snyder had been able to finish everything, people would be looking back on this movie a lot kinder.
Yeah.
Maybe, but we got a few extra of those chapters and they were.
We got one more.
I guess
of Snyder's chapters.
Snyder, so
Snyder didn't really have anything to do with like Suicide Squad or even Aquaman or I think the one he had the most input on was Wonder Woman, just because that came out right after Batman vs Superman.
Still, when you're 3 movies out of 10 in, and the last was Justice League.
Yeah.
Well, no, this was 2.
Yeah.
And then
you had this one, then you had Justice League. I'm not saying that. I would love to go peek into a different universe and see what the rest of the movies looked like. Yeah. I'm just saying that it makes sense after this movie and Justice League that they were like, this is fine. Although I guess that's not true. No, he left because
his one of his kids committed suicide. And what sucks is his movie was almost done. Like literally the 6 months that he took to finish the movie when he did it, that's all they had left to finish his version.
Yeah, so I would have loved to see his interpretation on the rest of the movies, although the rest of the movies that are out.
Well, did you have you read the synopsis of what his further movies were going to be?
I've read bits and pieces.
I would encourage you before we hit Justice League just to see that, just because in context of what he was trying to do, I understand the decisions he made along the way, and it just got cut so short that a lot of things that he was setting up in Man of Steel were going to pay off in Justice League 2. So
just didn't do it justice.
Exactly. Yeah. Just didn't league it well.
It was in a league of its own.
Yeah. Doomsday. Last rando while Seth's assigning reading assignments here. So this is really crazy. You are probably the biggest Hans Zimmer fan in the world. You've seen him how many times?
Once.
Oh, but you're seeing him again.
I'm seeing him again, yeah.
But you saw him not too long ago.
I saw him back in September, yeah.
So you're in 12 months you're seeing him twice.
Well, yeah, that's because I didn't think he was coming here.
I'd call you a fan at that point, especially if you're going to battle that Nashville traffic.
Absolutely.
I'm old and have 4 kids, and that's how I measure anything I do. Is like, will there be traffic?
I could literally walk to Bridgestone from here.
Yeah, not me, man. If there's traffic and a parking issue, I'm not going. That's just, even if I have to go like Nosferatu, I want to see that. It's like, gotta park. You know.
Is that why we ended up never going to see that movie? Was it you're just thinking parking?
No, I have 4 kids, and one of them probably knocked me unconscious with something.
Yeah,
and that probably.
And he didn't want to drive out to the IMAX to see it out there.
Traffic. I heard it was going to snow in 3 weeks.
Yeah,
definitely not going to risk it. No, it totally fell off my radar, as many things do. But Hans Zimmer was excited to work on this, but he only wanted to do the Man of Steel stuff. He did not want to do, or he wanted to do Superman. He brought in someone named Junkie XL to do all the Batman stuff because he said he didn't feel like, because of his experience with the other franchise, he didn't want to have to do it from scratch again. Yeah. And he wanted someone else to kind of do their own interpretation.
Which I think is fair.
Yeah.
And then he actually went on to do the entire score. Junkie XL went on to do the entire score for the Snyder Cut of Justice League.
And I actually really like it. Yeah. That one. So, yeah, it's really cool. And Zimmer has so much. I mean, I like it because he has so much clout. He doesn't.
Right.
It's not like, this is my score.
Yeah.
It's not a composer battle, you know? He's just like, sure.
Well, it's common knowledge that he has basically a people factory for making his scores. Whenever Hans Zimmer is credited for a score, there's probably 3 or 4 other composers that came up with themes that he then went in and fleshed out to be the entire score of the movie.
I love that because he's finding work for those other people too.
Well,
like
that's the thing.
You know, like
most of the modern people doing scores, other than Hans Zimmer and like the classic people, actually went through his pipeline. So he's actually been putting out people who are then going on to do their own scores and win awards. So he's actually one of the few people that has that kind of setup that is actually doing it well to benefit the people that are working with him.
that's cool.
Yeah.
That's amazing. Shall we, Dawn of Justice? Shall we seek justice? Shall we fly? I'm getting so bad at that part.
Justice, sir, I barely know her.
Hey, Justice! Zimmer!
Sitting Zimmer on it. I don't know.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Yeah, I got my Zimmer back.
Yeah.
All right, reminder. Snyder barely knowers positive. Yes, we dig it. And super bad is if we don't like it, which
Perfect.
Yes, I am so stoked about that. Top bill cast, and that's Ben Affleck as Bruce Wayne and Batman, Henry Cavill as Clark Kent Superman, and Amy Adams as Lois.
Was that really the only top build cast?
Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
Yeah. There's typically 3 is like the most.
I would have
yeah.
put Jesse Eisenberg.
Yeah, I would have put him up there
Yeah,
too.
he's not in the same pay
That's
band
fair.
as these 3.
Interesting. Fair. I give
And
it
he shaved his head, so big problem.
Asshole. I give it a Snyder barely knower. I think all 3 of them. I know you're probably going to disagree with me on Henry Cavill, but I think all 3 of them went all out for everything they did in this movie. So yeah, I liked it.
So how's it work? Like, what's the percentage of like? Because I'm conflicted. Like
33 and a third each.
So if I feel like 2 out of 3 of them is I have to give it a Snyder barely knower.
Yeah, I'd say so. That's math.
Okay. Well, in that case, I'm gonna give it a Snyder barely knower. I've already kind of expressed my opinions on. I didn't feel like Henry Cavill. It's not that I don't think he could do better. I don't think he was given much to do, and so because I've seen him in other stuff where I like him a lot better.
Yeah.
Ben Affleck, I've already said, has done great. I would say any development we've had of Superman's character in this movie, or like where we got to like see his human side and act, I feel like Amy Adams brought it out of him. It was all. So
Yeah.
I feel like she acted enough for both of them in this movie.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm going to give it a Snyder barely knower.
Okay. Did you already give yours?
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I kind of squeaky here. Squeaky Snyder, but mostly because, and this actually isn't necessarily Ben Affleck's fault. Actually, every scene Batman's in, I love.
Yeah.
So the stuff I love most about this is Batman. I loved how gigantic he is.
And it was
compared to
very
everyone else.
contentious when they announced that he was going to be Batman. It was one of the most divisive things.
Absolutely.
Oh, I thought it was a horrible idea.
Yeah.
Just because I don't like
half
him.
the people did. And I was like, I think he could do it.
The stuff I like him most in is Kevin Smith films.
Yeah.
When he works with like Jay and Silent Bob stuff. Other than that, I do not love him. I love Chasing Amy.
Yeah.
But he was so big and hulking. I liked it. The only thing for me was, and again, this is a costume choice we'll talk about later, but
You didn't like the zipper.
yeah, not enough zippers. I want zippers everywhere.
It really needed to be more zippers.
Besides the fact that he's acting differently with branding people, I didn't see enough other markers that he had necessarily aged. Like his back, like he didn't have like a walker, like I just like gray hair. Just give me something to show
He
that
had gray hair.
a little bit, but not noticeable.
Enough for a 50-year-old.
Really, I didn't think there was really like.
Actually, if anything, he would have been in his mid to late 40s. So,
Really?
I mean,
I just didn't get he was old version Batman enough. Like I only knew that because I knew the context, but
Right.
I feel
he
like
also said 20 years several times.
yeah.
I would
but-
say physically he looked like he could have been like same age group.
yeah.
Remember though, my
But
dad is 60 or 64 and a bodybuilder. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's possible to be that old and look that good.
Yeah.
But I think what made him old looking to me was like, I mean, you could just tell with the things he was talking about that the man's been through some stuff.
Yeah.
Like when to me, it's when the big thing was like when it showed like Robin's uniform. And I was like, there's a story there.
Yeah, like when he punched Robert E. Lee in the face.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's fucking old.
Yeah. Like that gave me like geriatric vibes.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Again, I give it a Snyder barely knower. I just something a little older, pills, Medicaid, something.
Maybe the Batmobile is like a Cadillac or
Yeah.
something.
He
I
has
think he did a significantly better job at looking older than Christian Bale did in Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah.
Christian Bale looks exactly the
He
same,
looks
just with
the
a
same the whole
mustache at the
time.
beginning.
Yeah. Yeah,
and that was 10 years later. So I mean,
and maybe it was the workouts, like because the workouts were like, listen, like I do work out, but I'm average. Like I work out to stay in shape, not to be like your pops, you know.
Yeah.
But those workouts were intense, and he was looking jacked, and I was just like, that's not old
Maybe
man
we need to see him
workout.
take some Tylenol before.
Yeah, something, you know, I got to drink my prune juice.
Right.
Yeah, something. Instead of the red trunks, you know, for him, it could have been a depends.
Look,
you know.
Absolutely.
Look, this was my dad at 60.
Damn.
Yeah, I can send this to you to put in the podcast so people can see.
Yeah.
That is my dad
I'll
at
let you know.
60.
He looks like he's ready to fight Superman.
It's very possible to look jacked as hell at that
All right.
age. So.
Seth's dad, ladies and gentlemen. Holy shit.
Yeah, you like the trunks?
Yeah, I'm actually adding. He's the new affirmative.
There we
Seth's
go.
dad is yes. We like
Yes.
it. Positive. Yeah.
Okay.
Bodybuilder Scott.
Bodybuilder. Shout out to Seth's dad. Thanks for making a fantastic human.
Yeah.
There we go. Thank
Good
you.
job.
Woo!
You're the
Fantastic.
first
humans.
person to say that. Thank you.
Really? Yeah. Well, wait till the IRS comes around.
Oh, they have many times this year.
Supporting cast 1-0, and this is got to pick and choose this one here. Jesse Eisenberg, Lex Luthor, Diane Lane, Martha Kent, Lawrence Fishburne, Perry White, Jeremy Irons, Alfred, Holly Hunter, Senator Finch, Gal Gadot. Man, this is just way down the list.
Yeah.
That would be Wonder Woman, Scott McNairy, Wallace Keefe, and then we'll stop there.
I think
Scoot McNairy, sorry.
I think everybody did their job. I think they put 100% into each of the characters they played. Like we were talking about in the last episode, I was very happy to see more of Lawrence Fishburne in this one. I think you really got to see like the compassionate hard ass that he was trying to be in the first one. I think it really came across more in this, where he was a hard ass, but it still was like, okay, fine, you're doing the good thing, so here, take the chopper, take the plane, whatever, but coach, only coach.
Yeah.
So like, I don't know, I think he did really well. As you said, I think Diane Lane did even better in this one than she did in the first one.
Yeah.
I think this was a solid introduction to Gal Gadot as Wonder Woman and Diane. I love kind of you weren't quite sure if she was Wonder Woman until like right before she comes in as Wonder Woman. So, and disagree with me about Jesse Eisenberg all you want. I think he played a modern tech bro on cocaine to the absolute fullest, and I think I loved his performance. So I give it a Snyder barely know her.
Snyder barely know her. Scott's dad,
Yes.
or Seth's dad, Scott.
Yeah, I agree. With Lawrence Fishburne, he did a great job of Perry White. I wanted to hear at least once a Great Caesar's Ghost, because that's like Perry White's slow like thing he says all the time. But then
it would have been really good under his breath.
When he didn't say it, it was a reminder like, oh, this is like we're going away from typical mythology for superhero, and it's fine. I thought everyone did. The senator was a minor character, but she did well at her job. So no, this was I would give her a Seth's dad. I'd give her Seth's dad. And I do think we've talked about this a few other movies whereas I may not love the writing and like the overall plot that I was looking at, the actors did a really good job. And so it has a great cast. Yeah. And fun fact about Gal Gadot in this movie that I didn't know until this rewatch, and I looked it up. There was a scene where when she's fighting Doomsday, and after she like slashes him, she has like a light smile, like showing that she's kind of enjoying it. Yeah, that was entirely improv and not part of it. She just they caught her do that randomly, and it to me it like fits the character in that moment. And I don't know if she just thought, hey, after I slice this CGI nothing imaginary thing, I'm going to give a smile, because Wonder Woman probably would do that. Yeah. But
what a gal!
Or maybe she fell and caught herself and was really proud of
Wow.
Anyway, fun facts.
So she really got a good job.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with Seth's dad on that.
Seth's dad. I went super bad here. And
interesting.
I'm sorry, but
is it just because of Jesse Eisenberg?
No, not just.
Because the math does not work out.
It's mostly that, but I'm gonna go on a limb and call Jesse Eisenberg malpractice.
Okay.
Here, that was unwatchable. I fucking hated him every time he was on screen. It's funny. I've been in tech for a long time. Been around a lot of tech bros. It's funny, like I'm just like, yeah, he's got some of that to him, but the I don't know. I just the way he talked, his mannerisms, the hair. I was just, and also like, over 3 hours is a lot of him. I just was like, God, there's a lot of Jesse Eisenberg here. And what's funny is I love him.
Yeah.
Like Social Network, I was
It was a
like,
great movie.
he was perfect
Yeah.
in Social. I loved him. In fact, I can't watch Mark Zuckerberg interviews because I'm like, that's not what Mark Zuckerberg's like. He's like in the movie. He's Jesse Eisenberg. That's actually that's my thing. But I couldn't stand him. Also, Lawrence Fishburne is one of my favorite actors. He's been in so many of my all-time favorite movies, and I hated him here. I hated what he does here. And I realized there's probably some tie back to the comics where the things he's saying, the headlines, I thought they were cheesy, drove me insane. And I'm just like, they have turned my Lawrence Fishburne into a headline spouting empty vessel here. He's more than that. And I hated everything he did here. And he's one of my all-time favorites. So I can't believe they made me hate him. I don't love this interpretation of Alfred.
Good point.
I
forgot about
I
that.
do not like it.
Yeah.
It's I don't like it. I just don't. I don't like it.
As much as I love Andy Serkis, I think he's way better than Andy Serkis is Alfred in the Batman.
Yeah. I
Don't get me
I
wrong, Michael
didn't love
Caine
him
will
either.
always
Well,
be the GOAT.
I don't like the Batman at all.
Yeah.
Like literally Paul Dano is the only thing I liked about it.
Yeah.
Because I like Paul Dano a lot,
Yeah.
and I think, but yeah, it was like There Will Be Blood mixed with Batman. But yeah, Holly Hunter is good. Scoot McNairy is Wallace Keefe, the guy in the wheelchair. It's always funny because sometimes, like with John Hamm,
Yeah.
I'm like, why doesn't he get more lead roles in movies? You know, and I'm like, he's such a good actor in Mad Men. But Scoot McNairy was in *Halt and Catch Fire*, which is a fantastic AMC show. It's kind of underrated because it came out before like a lot of these great movies. But it's about the computer industry, how it came to be. He was fantastic in that. And then I see him here. I'm like, God, no wonder he doesn't get more stuff outside of shows. I'm like, this is awful. I hated what he did. So this was a Diane Lane, fantastic. Again, keeping the ship afloat. Holly Hunter was Holly Hunter here, fantastic. But everything else, Jesse Eisenberg, my God. Yes, no wonder you're getting passed up on. Fuck. But you guys, that was my one rant for the show.
There we
I
go.
feel like I want to go on record say I forgot about Alfred in this movie.
Yeah.
And I completely agree.
Yeah. Do not.
So
What was wrong with Alfred?
He's too energetic, too helpful.
That's literally. Have you seen the animated series?
No.
He basically
I'm
was
watching it with
the
my son.
animated series one, which
Yeah.
people consider to be the greatest Alfred.
Okay, well, I'm going to watch it with my son. And
yeah,
please.
Yeah, maybe we'll put out a Kyle's cut, a Castro cut of this podcast where I go back and fix all the shit I said that was
honestly,
wrong.
The Batman animated series is hands down the best
Yeah.
animated series of.
I'm starting it with my 10-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But make sure it's like the 90s one or whatever, not there's a
There's a fourth season that's not as
Right.
good.
There's fine. The other ones are fine, but like anyway.
Is that the Robin Williams Batman? I'm just kidding.
It's Mark Hamill as the Joker, which people always forget.
yeah,
that
and
he's-
Kevin Conroy.
Yeah, so-
As Batman.
He's also he's in the Arkham games.
Yeah.
Oh, Kevin Conroy, rest in peace. He's fantastic.
Yeah.
Probably my second favorite Batman. Is that weird?
No,
Yeah,
not at all.
no.
I love him.
He's probably my number 3 behind Adam West and Christian Bale.
Oh, I love Kevin Conroy.
It
Rest in
is
peace, man.
interesting that this role for Jesse Eisenberg and Lawrence Fishburne. Oh my gosh, Lawrence
Fishburne.
Fishboard.
Fishburne. It's interesting
pussy.
that those guys. It is so different than their regular roles, and it is like I forgot that he was in this movie, and not Jesse Eisenberg, the other guy who's in
Jeremy
Marvel.
Irons.
So,
Yeah.
So, but it's fine.
2-0. It's so weird when you like go in real hard on your rant and you still didn't make a mark on the scorecard. Damn it.
Sorry.
I went hard. I'm not, and I was talking to him on the way over. I was like, I'm not really a negative person.
But you're about to be.
I know.
Nice.
And I tried and I got shut down.
Yeah.
Writing, and that would be Jeremy Siegel. Joe Shuster created Superman, giving all the credits here. Bob Kane, Bill Finger for Batman creators. But the character of Wonder Woman, created by William Moulton Marston. You have enough names. Chris Terrio and David S. Goyer, writers.
Wrote the script.
Wrote the script.
I think we're probably all going to agree, maybe for different reasons on this. It is going to just squeak under for me.
Okay.
And it is going to be a super bad.
Super bad.
Again, I do consider this to be the weakest of the 3 movies. There is just nothing specific I can point to, but just the kind of overall vibe of the dialogue. I do feel like was a little bit limited compared to the other 2 movies.
Yeah.
Or 3 movies really that we're gonna watch. So yeah, I give it a super bad. It's not my favorite. I don't think it's terrible. That's why it just squeaks under. It's like a 4.9 for me. Like definitely not the worst dialogue I've ever seen. It's definitely no Shitty of Angels, but it's,
come on.
but definitely, nothing special about it.
Do you, on the episodes that I haven't been here, have you still referenced Shitty of Angels as the
Wicked Prayer gets referenced.
Wicked Prayer
Okay,
and the Deftones.
I'm glad that we've all
Because
had
Tara
those
Reid
things.
was in the Big Lebowski.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
So
And we remember when she was.
she said her final prayer.
He literally texted me and he was like, how in the world did she go from the Big Lebowski to Wicked Prayer? And I was like, remember, American Pie happened in between those.
Right.
What do you think?
I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go super bad as well. And to me, it's not even like there's. I don't even need all the qualifications. I could just take two of them and I would be fine. One, I feel like they butchered Superman. Two, the dialogue. Seth already talked about. Not a fan of the dialogue. Three, they should have separated the movies into two movies. They should have ended with the Batman versus Superman. And bringing, and with a slight reference to Wonder Woman in the scene, but then bringing everything that happened with Doomsday on, that could have been, I mean, the death of Superman is such a well-known comic. That could have been the part 3 of this thing, and it would have given them more time to focus on that part, because it really kind of rushed through it.
Have you seen Snyder Cut yet?
Would have given the Ultimate, the one we just watched?
No, the Snyder Cut of Justice League yet. Have you seen it?
Yes, I have.
Okay, because to me, it kind of had to happen because that's literally where Justice League begins, is the death of Superman.
I'm sure I'll have... Well, they could have put the Doom... They could have had Batman v Superman, and then they could have had Doomsday.
Sure.
And that would have been... So, and then also, someone in the writer's room... Whoever was the guy that was saying, okay, here's the 20 comics I want to reference in this and the different plot points I want to draw from all of them. Someone should have been like, hey, here's an idea. How about like 10? How about 10 to 15? Make it a more
There's a lot of material.
It's surprising me that these are all like professional people that are working in Hollywood, that nobody was like, hey, this seems like a lot.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go super bad. I'm going to go
so
worse
bad.
than super bad.
So super awful.
Yeah.
Super shit.
Yeah.
I go super shit as well. Malpractice is another word I want to use again. The Flash dream sequence is
forgot about that.
out of control.
I love that.
I don't know what's going on.
You're not supposed to. It's setting up something that's going to happen in 4 movies.
I know, but I'm so like deep in like just pretext here. And like, is he dreaming? Is he having visions? And the thing is that Flash is not wearing, like, again, I'm coming to this. I'm not like familiar with the Flash outside of like images.
This has nothing to do with the comics. This has nothing to do with
the
comics.
But he's
so
not, I didn't recognize him as Flash. It took me listening to something else to actually confirm, like, okay, that was Flash.
In that moment, I don't think you're totally supposed to, though, because it's supposed to be a very confusing moment, because you don't really meet Flash until Justice League. And then on top of that, this is a moment where they're in the nightmare scenario of Darkseid has basically converted Superman over to that point. And so at the end of that movie is when they send Flash back to this moment. This moment was not supposed to be something to pay off until way later. So you're supposed to be confused.
So he's just a guy that pops out of nowhere and just like, ah!
Until you see those videos of the Flash later in the movie.
In defense of what you're saying, the actual point where they bring that back is in the Flash movie, which happens like 4 movies later with a different director.
Currently, the current iteration of it, not what was supposed to happen.
You're watching this with none of that knowledge, and you're like, what is this?
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm just like, and then all of a sudden Batman's got a machine gun. You know, I'm just.
What do you mean all of a sudden? He has them everywhere.
That's another problem I have with the writing, is it would have been so much more powerful if they only had him kill in the future post-apocalyptic to make you think like, wow, what has happened?
Mm-hmm.
No, I mean, I disagree, because again, we're 20 years into it and he's branding people and killing people.
But even Batman 20 years, even when you look at like the Batman Beyond comics and stuff like that, he still has his no killing rule. The only times you ever see Batman have his killing rule suspended is when like in the Injustice storylines when things are so bad and he's in this post-apoc. See, because I kind of viewed it when I was wondering that when I was watching it, when I was like, is he killing people? That seems a little un-Batman. But then my justification to myself, because sometimes you watch these movies and you try to make them good even if they're not, and so my justification was, oh, it's just movie where like they accidentally hurt themselves, but they're not dead. But then when you see the post-apocalyptic stuff when he's just mowing people down, I'm like, oh, that's because life really sucks right now and he's become a murderer.
Yeah.
I disagree. I mean, it's kind of like what you said at the beginning of this podcast. This is just a movie where, oh, okay, Batman kills people. Like that's just a thing.
I also think I just think some of the pieces that were written in here were forced to connect. Like I still don't think I know we disagree. I just don't think we needed another watching Wayne's parents get killed just so we could say Martha later. I seriously think that's why it's there. That and then
it's one of the reasons.
It's one of the reasons, and that, but I think the Martha thing's kind of dumb. So I just like it's the supporting piece to the stupid thing that I don't like. And I think some of the plot devices to the twists and turns. I'm also just not following in this story, and I don't feel like I'm a dumb person, but I'm kind of having a hard time just kind of following along. And after the Flash scenes, when I kind of just like. And I get what you're saying. It's supposed to pay off later, but the fact that I'm like, is that Flash? Like, I know there's a Flash eventually, but
again, that's literally what he was trying to do. He was because he had the master plan, and Warner Brothers was doing everything they could to fuck up that master plan. It seemed like he had no plan.
Doesn't make me like it anymore.
But even with the plan, for this work hard note, I would have to, and I hope Zack
we
Snyder,
all agree on this. So.
I hope Zack Snyder never listens to this and gets his feelings hurt.
I am going to show it to him personally.
Yeah.
But that, to me, all the little things for future movies that didn't pay out, I'm like, that's bad writing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I disagree.
Which is part of the,
Again, you're looking at chapter 2 where he's setting up things for chapter 7 and being like, well, that's dumb that he would say that here. That's not going to do what? And then you only get chapter 3. And then it's like, oh, well, that's all fucking stupid because you don't get to see the end of the book.
All right, 2-1. Sorry, we gotta get this going. It's 4:30.
No!
Yeah, I know. We just gotta get to the end of the card somehow. 2-1. Snyder barely nowhere. Directing Mr. Zack Snyder.
You start.
All right, I'm going to. I do think I'm.
Writing aside.
It's tough because we didn't get to see his finished product.
Mm-hmm.
So what
of this movie we did.
What we've okay, good point. Well then if it's just of this movie, then super bad.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was really thank you for that because I was putting together his whole thing and I was like, I don't feel comfortable saying super bad based off of just 3 out of 10 or whatever.
Yeah.
But if we're just based on for one, super bad.
Yep.
No, I give it to him. I Snyder barely know her. I don't have any of the problems y'all apparently have with this movie.
Yeah.
I don't understand the problems. I accept that y'all have them.
I read Reddit. That's why. I'm just kidding. No, I didn't know.
If you were able to go into that.
You haven't been on the chat lately.
Oh, you're right. I haven't. Not in the last 6 months. No, actually, it's been more like a year. I don't know. I think he did a good job. I think what he did with the visual tone of the movie, I disagree with you. I think he did take Superman's character in an emotional journey. I think he did a great job. I think he directed the movie that was given to him script-wise the best way he possibly could have. I think the fight scenes are some of the absolute best fight scenes I've ever seen in a superhero movie. Even the biggest haters of this movie all say, but that Batman warehouse scene was fucking awesome.
Yeah.
That
is a cool scene.
It just I've been liked the Batman vs Superman scene before, and I almost like I know one of the critiques is like they didn't fight long enough. Like we build up this big brawl, and I could have used some more. I would have loved to see Batman get into like the Batmobile or his plane to try to take on like just get bigger and more ridiculous with the
get more tools.
Yeah, but the thing I love about that fight scene specifically is you literally just have 2 tanks going at each other, and it is slow. It does look a little clunky, but again, it's because they're tanks.
Yeah.
Neither one of them is supposed to be someone who's super agile in this type of situation. It's a fist fight.
Yeah.
And I think Snyder with the script that was given to him, which I'm sure had a lot of his input, but also a lot of the studio's input, was what it was, and I think he did the best that he could with it. So yeah. Snyder barely know her.
I go super bad here. And I just don't. I'm not seeing. It's funny that Man of Steel was supposed to be 3.5 hours.
I don't think that's true. I think because when you put out the first cut of any movie, it's over 3 hours.
Yeah, well, that's
just
what
how
he
that
intended
works.
it to be. Well, but he eventually got his way when they re-released these cuts, these
I
longer
don't
cuts.
think he meant for it to fully be that way with Man of Steel.
Yeah, but I mean, maybe not. The research I found said he wanted the 3.5 hour cut out there, but
Interesting. I've never heard that about.
well, maybe
Man of
not.
Steel.
Maybe
Yeah,
it's just a Reddit myth.
possibly.
Just kidding. But I don't think more Zack Snyder's better here. I'm often the plot devices I find muddle the story versus progresses it. I'm confused oftentimes.
But again, you're talking about writing.
Well, I mean, but what I'm seeing on screen, I'm just not.
He didn't touch the script though. He didn't write the script.
I know, but it wasn't. He didn't. He's not presenting me with anything here. I just don't. I don't like what I'm seeing. Let's just say
The
that
script wasn't directed well.
Yeah, this is not a ride I like being on.
Interesting.
Yeah, I don't like. And also here's the thing. I hate to put this back on Nolan, but I just feel like Nolan.
Well, he was pretty hands off by this one.
Oh yeah, I just think he's masterful, and the way he's, he's told these types of stories, even though it's a little different. It's with his Batman stories, but I just think the grandiosity of the Nolan thing is just like he nailed it. And I know that we're trying to be grand here, but I'm not enjoying the ride. I don't like where I'm at.
I feel like I'm watching with all of the movies. I feel like with all of the Snyder movies, I feel like I'm watching abstract art, and I've never been a big appreciator of abstract art. Where when I look at something, someone else be like, "This is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen."
That's what I love about it.
And I'll look at the same painting and be like, "It looks like a blur."
Yeah.
I'm just excited to hear all the apologies about this once y'all watch Justice League.
Oh yeah. Oh, I'm sure.
Well, I've already seen it.
Yeah.
And I've already seen the 4.5 year long one.
To give him one compliment, anytime Batman's on screen, I'm digging it.
Yeah.
Like I do like the Batman stuff. I think that stuff was done really well. But yeah. Anyway, I'm not enjoying the ride. Super bad. Not sorry. What's in front of us? Cinematography, production, design, sound, costumes, editing.
I think y'all know my opinion, so y'all shit on it all you want.
What, are you just backing out now?
I'll say my opinion after y'all are done.
Okay.
I like that. Ending on a positive note.
Yeah.
So if we take editing out of it, when we talk cinematography, it's such a visually appealing piece of work to see all the and just as I don't know all the things that goes into making a movie that beautiful, but they do a really good job of it, right?
Yep.
And then also with the soundtrack that's very good. So all of what I'm seeing and hearing, like it's presented very well.
Yeah.
The part of that qualification was editing,
Yeah.
and I'm kind of with you where like when I saw the shorter version, I was like, when I saw the longer version, I was like, still, So like, so I think someone somewhere could have done something better, and I probably think it's in the editing, but I'm not sure. But I'm going to go ahead and give it a Seth's dad, Snyder very newer, because I mean, really, that is the redeeming factor of these movies is when you watch them, especially when you watch them on a big screen. It's
you need to charge your lights, bro.
I charged them. They were on the chargers all night.
Yeah.
We've been going for a while.
We've been doing it.
These are long episodes.
Yeah, we're doing the Snyder cuts of the
These were not Harrison's fault, by the way.
We outlasted the lights.
Yeah. The lights were like, we're done with the movies now.
Yeah. I just realized the battery life isn't great on those.
Yeah, apparently.
Yeah.
Snyder barely nowhere for me. I again, like you said, I think it is visually incredible. I am a lover of abstract art, and I agree with you. There are so many moments. Literally, like my roommate came in as I was watching the end of it, and when he's being passed down to Martha and to Lois, it literally is reminiscent of the Virgin Mary holding Jesus in that Renaissance painting. There's a lot of stuff in it that reminds me of Renaissance paintings.
When people relate Superman to Jesus,
I do too.
It's so weird.
Well, that was a big marketing problem they had with Man of Steel, was that was very much presented as a Christ story.
Yeah, it definitely. Yeah, I agree with that.
Like literal crucifix scene.
Yeah, but I genuinely think that like I love how he bases a lot of his visuals on like Renaissance type paintings.
Yeah.
So, what's in front of us 100% Snyder barely nowhere.
Yeah, I go super bad here.
Love it.
Just because of Doomsday, right?
Love it.
Doomsday looks like a turd with teeth. I hate it. I hate fighting CGI enemies. It has to be done
Don't
really...
watch a superhero movie then.
I had to for the podcast. And you won the category, man. You won the war.
I'm still gonna roast you.
Yeah, I don't like Doomsday, the look here, and I get it. Like, there's no way to practically do that character. I've not read the comics, but I did research. I mean, I know it was pretty spot on, but I don't like what I'm seeing.
Look-wise, it was pretty spot on. Origin content, what he was just like, it was like they could have made any other character, named it Bill, and I would have been better okay with it than what we got and saying Doomsday. Actually, there's no empirical evidence that is the comic Doomsday, other than Jesse Eisenberg at one point, you're going to be Superman's Doomsday. He could have been Bill the Space Invader. We don't know.
Could have been.
It's true.
Yeah, it could have been a sewer monster.
Yeah.
Which I think he was. I just don't like fighting big CGI things. I didn't like, I don't like, this one reason I hate MCU. I hate watching, anytime Hulk is on screen, hate it. I hate watching giant CGI objects take up a ton of space. Like, I think the best it was ever done was Lord of the Rings.
Oh, yeah.
With Gollum.
Yeah.
That, for some reason, that never bugged me. But I just never have seen it in a way with these superhero movies where I'm stoked about it. I did not enjoy that. The editing, the pacing was way off to me. There was some stuff that I do not think should have made this cut. That could have maybe dried it up a little bit and made it a little more succinct. Some of the decisions that were made that, should have been left on the edit room floor. But I do love everything about Batman's costumes, his presentation. I do love all that. So I love the way Batman was presented to us here. Some of the fight scenes were cool, definitely. But I can't overlook the Doomsday thing and but it doesn't matter. You guys got it.
Speaking of the cool fight scenes, did anyone else ever think that the cool scene with Batman saving his mom, did that not look just like one of the scenes in, I want to say it's The Dark Knight, where he gets the infrared and he's able to go in there and take out all the people?
Oh, kind of
like it. That's what it reminded me of.
A little bit, yeah. I get that.
3-2. Here we go.
In case you guys are wondering my thoughts.
Yeah, I love your thoughts. I love your thoughts. How good are these bad guys, huh?
I mean, we know where I'm going with this. I thought Jesse Eisenberg was fucking great, and I thought Doomsday was fantastic. So I'm gonna go Snyder barely know her. We're gonna see if it's a squeak for you, because I know you like I'm not gonna say love, but like Doomsday, but don't like Jesse Eisenberg as Lex Luthor.
No, it's the opposite.
Oh.
They should not have done Doomsday in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
At the best, they should have put him in a different movie, and then kind of like what you were saying, made him not like a space turd,
Yeah, giant space turd.
Here's the thing. I like Jesse Eisenberg's villain in this movie. I would have liked him so much better if they didn't name him Lex Luthor.
Yeah.
Because when you say to a comic book fan, when you say Lex Luthor, already I'm thinking this.
Mm-hmm.
And then what I saw was not.
Sure.
And I appreciate the difference that they brought to the stake, but I just think just name him something different. Just create a new villain for this new type of Superman.
Yeah.
I'm really on the fence.
I didn't expect it to be this close for him, actually.
I'm really on the fence of this. So
it'll be either a 5.1 or a 4.9, whichever direction it goes.
Think about how good it feels to shit on something.
I do love shitting on things.
How often do you get to just criticize somebody?
I'm gonna go with a super bad.
Oh yeah.
It's more that
Kyle
way.
just came in his pants.
Talk dirty to me.
So, yeah,
his laptop's about to fry.
So,
yeah.
Just because ugh, I don't know.
Oh yeah. Ooh. Super bad. I don't know what else I could say. Jesse Eisenberg, horrible. Doomsday turd, really bad. Jesse Eisenberg, everything about his interpretation, his portrayal here, not interesting, annoying. Every shot, every time he was on the screen, I was like, God help me. So fighting the CGI monster, totally a turn off for me here. Yeah, super bad. Sorry.
All right, there we go.
I just, it's 3-3 with one category left. Oh my God.
I'm curious to see what this category is.
We can't let this thing go to the finish line. Good lore.
Oh, yeah.
Not good lord, good lore. Do we stick? And again, I approach this as a non-comic book reader, interpreting it just, does this hook me into the lore more?
Yeah.
And you guys have a little more context, but.
Yeah. Okay. This is one where I feel like the greater context of what he was trying to do is appropriate to bring in, because again, and even with the first Justice League movie, the things, the details that he puts in, not only is he pulling from other comics, but he's putting details in as far as like, well, because at the very end of this, we see Steppenwolf that's going to be the main villain of Justice League. Like, he's very purposefully setting up bricks for each of his next movies that he's planning on doing. I like the details that he pulls in. I think it's a Snyder barely knower. Like, I think he does a very good job at setting up what his universe is. Whether you like the movie at the end of the day or not, I think it's very hard to deny that the details are there. The details of him setting up whatever his version of the lore is, even though he's pulling from a couple of different comics and has that going for it, he sets up what he's doing very well.
Yeah.
So when you have a pizza,
Yeah.
it's important to have good ingredients, as Papa John's always told us.
Yeah.
So having the good background comics and the good lore from the different sources he had is important. He's grabbed from a lot of good ones.
Yeah.
But equally as important when you make a pizza is when you actually put it together and you cook it and you do the right portions and do the right actual culinary so that at the end of the day, the thing you're giving someone is actually a good tasting pizza, which would be like overall what we got with Justice League and what we got with Batman versus Superman. And so by that logic, yeah, he's pulling from a lot. He is a knowledgeable comic book guy and he's pulling a lot of good things. But I just feel like what he delivered us with what he pulled out is super bad to me. I didn't think I thought it'd be cool nods if the payouts justified the nods that he gave. And since you did say we were allowed to look at the other movies as well, and so since I know where we're going,
also his master plan.
So since I know where we're going, at least just going into the next couple movies, because they did continue to take some of what he was doing into the other movies. It's just I appreciate the attempt to do something different and a little bit more unique or whatever, but like it often frequently when I'm watching these movies, I'm like, okay, like, I mean, fair, but overall it's not like, wow, I loved that interpretation of literally anything in these movies.
Yep.
So I'm gonna go super bad, but not as super bad. I mean, I was passionate about the writing super bad. This I'm just like super bad.
Yeah. No, interesting. Yeah, for me, this category has to be, does it draw me to want to know more?
Yeah.
I actually gave this a Snyder barely know or Man of Steel.
right.
Like that on
Man of Steel. I was like, what?
Yeah, he's just chomping at the bit over here on Man of Steel because I was like, oh, this is for the first time ever. I'm not like in love with this, but I've never liked Superman, and this actually gave me one that I like and could explore more. But here, I just feel like it's convoluted. There's callbacks built into future films, and I understand the master plan thing. But I'm watching this movie now today, and just thinking it's a slug. I'm sluggishly getting to the end. I like everything Batman's doing, but another thing I realized about this story, lore-wise, is like I didn't realize how much of what I love about Batman are the Batman villains.
Yeah,
right.
And I'm missing that part of it too. Like, and I realize that's not this story, but I'm just realizing, like, man, Batman minus Joker, minus Scarecrow, like, there's so many great villains.
Yeah.
And I'm just kind of missing them here, even though I like what Ben Affleck's doing. But
part of that, I think, has to do with the Superman source material, though. I don't think Superman's villains are anywhere near as good as Batman's villains.
Yeah.
So I get that. I mean, even if we just go the most traditional route, I don't think Zod is as strong of a character as the Joker would be. I don't think that Brainiac is as good of a character as the Riddler would be. I don't think Lex Luthor Lex Luthor is as good as anyone like Falcone in the Mob. Like I think I agree with you that part of Batman's charm is the villains, and Superman's source material just doesn't have the quality that Batman's does.
I agree with everyone except for Lex Luthor. Lex Luthor and the Joker have been frequently proven as like the two archetypes for all villains.
Yeah,
sure, but Lex Luthor bored me in the animated series. Every time Lex was the main villain in the animated series, I couldn't care less.
Yeah, he's not great. Although in Justice League Unlimited, he gets a little bit better. But like the best thing about him as a villain is that he thinks he's the savior of humanity.
Yeah.
The best part about him as a villain is like you could see his points and his delusion as to why he's minus the being a crazy psychopath. Like he's just a really concerned human citizen for humans. Did he go about it the wrong way? Absolutely. But that's what always makes him a good villain is that like, well, he also has a lot of other things that make him a good villain.
Yeah.
He's not. I'm not trying to be like, no, Lex wasn't wrong.
Yeah.
But I feel like but in Superman, he's like typically the only good villain.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I feel like.
Yeah. So yeah, I hate it. Like it didn't. Yeah. 3 to 4.
Ugh.
Super bad.
Squeaker.
Let that sink in. Super bad. Seth.
It's not.
Yeah.
You're all just heartless bastards.
Okay.
We established this at the beginning.
Yes. Yes.
I'm actually okay with this ranking because like there are parts of this movie that I did enjoy.
Yeah.
Like three parts to the 4, or
Yeah.
whatever.
No,
but
I can
like,
accept a squeak
but,
by
like,
as
yeah.
far as good versus bad in
but
people's opinions.
If I'm
Yeah.
put in a position with a microphone in my face where I
Yeah.
have to have an opinion and I have to like be truthful, then yeah.
You're setting an example for the children out there.
Right,
You are.
absolutely.
all the children who are watching
Yeah.
this fucking podcast.
Yeah. Oh my God. Yeah. There are some good parts. No, I agree. And there are things like, and I do like Zack Snyder's imagery. Like you guys were talking about the art part. Like
Yeah.
I do like that. That's something that I always dig. I just wish what was being conveyed to me was more cohesive. But
Right.
But is this the worst thing I've ever seen? Absolutely not. It's
Yeah.
not. It's not that bad.
We all sat through Wicked Prayer.
Yeah, I know. And every time something like this happens, I
Yeah.
feel like it's just retribution for me making you watch it. Anytime
Pretty
like
much.
yeah, it's like this is he's never gonna. I remember him watching it, telling me like, wow, how dare you make me watch this?
Why else do you think I made you watch Sometimes I Think About Dying?
Oh, I knew it. I knew it. Well, this is a lot of fun. We got. We're gonna do 2 separate episodes for the Justice League because they only share what 45 minutes of footage.
45 minutes of footage. There are 2 vastly different movies.
So they warrant their own episode. So stay tuned. But thanks for chilling with us through this one. Love you, Kyle.
That
Is
was
my
Seth.
name.
Well, that was awkward. I'm Drew. Have a great one.
That's
Love
Seth
you.
and Drew. Sorry. Love you. Bye.
Movie Wars.